Hey everybody, welcome back to Your Free TV. It is Monday, September 29th, 2025. So glad to be back with you here on Your Free TV. I'll just jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. All right, so glad to be back with you here. I hope you had a great weekend. We got a ton of news, as always. Pretty intense stuff going on, as you know, is constantly the case, day after day after day. And so here we go. I'll jump in with the news. I will start by saying thank you so much for supporting the channel. I always forget to ask, but please like and subscribe. On Rumble, even just shadow ban, like I've jetted up to 10,000 plus, and now it's like stuck at 10.7, and it's just ridiculous. So we need to flood the zone. So please do it, and thanks for supporting. You make it happen. Your prayers, your donations, your tips. And I want to remind everybody, I will talk about C60 Evo, my great sponsor, at the end of the video. But it is the 29th, so of course, I give away 2 bottles of C60 Evo to anybody randomly selected. Okay, I'm able to give 2 bottles away every month in the giveaway, the You Are Free TV giveaway of C60 Evo olive oil capsules, which are my favorite. And so if you donate to the channel, you get entered into the giveaway. So that's fantastic. And I always say that towards the end of the month, so people know if they want to get entered in the giveaway. It's not a giant pool. You have a good chance of winning, certainly compared to any other lottery out there. Okay, so we're jumping in. And if you donate to the channel, you get 15% off at c60evo.com/YAFTV. The code is for 10% off is YAFTV. But if you donate to the channel, you get 15% off, and you get a different code and link sent to you. So there's that. An extra 5% is pretty major. Okay, so we're jumping into the news. Of course, we have the 20-point plan for Israel peace and Middle East peace, and Trump being the chair of the new peace board of peace. Okay, yeah, they didn't have time to come up with a better name, but okay, we're going to jump into all of it. We'll talk about the peace plan. We're going to talk about the very interesting points in there that seem very scary to me. And we'll talk about everything, just massively, the massive beast system that's being deployed, and everything coming out of it to do with, whatever went down at that supposed, royal meeting in the UK. And I think a lot of this was forged there, actually. And there's so much else besides. We have those shootings. We have the ongoing Charlie Kirk murder, total, just complete cloud cover over that, and all the fake stuff going on with the reporting of our government. And we have Moldova. I'll just put the glasses on. We'll jump in. I think I will start with Moldova. And I think I made the mistake in my last video saying Romania with Transnistria, when before I knew it was Moldova. But sometimes, do these at night, you get a little squirrely. And so I apologize for that. But Moldova, which is on the western border there of Ukraine, it had just won their re-election of their same EU puppet. Lots of election fraud claims going on. And if you remember, I talked about Diana Panchenko, who was the Ukrainian journalist who got exiled, her assets frozen, had to run for her life. And she had been warning President Trump recently, last week, that there was a huge plan, that she was getting told about it by military out of Ukraine that want the war to end. That basically they're planning some kind of FE, shall we say, in Transnistria. So Moldova, on that western border of Ukraine, has this area along the border called Transnistria, long time a pro-Russian area, in the sense of being the anti-EU, what's going on, the same as here with the World Economic Forum cabal taking over their country and trying to fight that, and very against this Ukraine war. And so what just happened is she won the re-election, okay? And she's that's Maya Sandu. of Moldova. And so she is the Action in Solidarity Party, PAS. And basically they're celebrating as this incredible win. We even got like a third of those pro-Russian people over in Transnistria, where what's coming out from people like Panchenko is that's where they're hoping through all of this militarization of Europe to push the war out of Ukraine into Moldova to basically bring in an Article 5 situation of NATO countries that are will be obligated to act if there is this excursion by Russia into Moldova. And so basically, as happened in her last election, there was a massive amounts of ex-patriots voting in this election. We remember that from our own 2020 election, with all of those Americans living abroad voting so massively for Joe Biden. But basically, we have Transnistria claiming massive election fraud, and that is the pro-Russian BEP party. And so that's what's going on. So I wanted to let you know about that is now moving forward, that they got her reelected, and that they could any day now do this Transnistria FE that Diana Panchenko has been warning about. And so, yes, important to understand. And so we have this government shutdown, as of 12 a.m. tomorrow night, early Wednesday morning, 12:01 a.m. There could be a government shutdown, and it's very interesting to watch this all go down. We have, of course, Russ Vought, who is the head of the Office of Management and Budget, drawing up huge, contingency plans if the government does shut down, who will get paid, who won't. And you hear these rumors, oh, there's 100,000 bureaucrats that are going to resign if the government shutdown happens so that they can secure their pensions and get out of Dodge. And, great, go for it. But, OMB, even New York Times over the weekend on Sunday put Russ Vought on the cover of New York Times Magazine, going after him. But it actually, to anybody who supports Trump reading it, it sounds, great. But basically, there could be a huge opportunity here if the government does shut down, and we go through this every 6 months. So, but at the last hour, they always get some kind of agreement, and the Democrats still want, of course, the illegal immigrants to get their health care, and they want all of this stuff. But it all seems like a giant beard to me. None of it makes a lot of sense, and so we're having the possible preparations for government shutdown. So very interesting there. And I'm going to get into this 20-point plan of Trump and this Board of Peace in a moment, but I'm going to cover a few things first. Another thing to note, because we're going to be talking in this video a lot about this digital ID rollout in the UK, and we'll get more and more into that across the week because they're coming for the QR code, mark of the beast, everybody identified by a QR code. And so I would strongly urge everybody not to QR. Okay, there's been a lot backdooring into your devices through QR codes. And of course, never have, never will, but this QR code is going to be your QR code, boing, where it is your digital identity and your only way you'll be able to access a CBDC. And I believe that this plan is going to be tested in Gaza. I just do. When I read what's going on in this 20-point plan, who's involved, all of it. And so just a quick note, the reason I segued there is because the Taliban just interestingly shut down the internet over the weekend. They shut down the internet in Afghanistan, claiming morality measures that they had to take. And so this is all going down, of course, in this huge time where Afghanistan, we have this situation of Trump vying to take control back of Bagram Air Force Base, all of the corruption out of Afghanistan continuously being prosecuted in the courts, so much going on. And then we have this Hegseth, all of military, high officers coming to meet, 800 to 1,100 of them, as early as tomorrow or possibly Wednesday. So this is moving very fast, and we don't know what's going to go on there. But we are seeing the ongoing escalation, what's going on in Venezuela. And then we have, of course, the whereas Stephen Miller, where they are literally now, saying that it's completely uncovered, that there's a huge intranational organization cabal. I think Stephen Miller even used the word cabal, that is, of course, fomenting insurrection and color revolution in the USA, and they're going after the money. And very interestingly, as they're going after the money, you get this guy, Howard Rubin. Howard Rubin gets arrested. He's been caught in these sexual assault cases for years now, but he's now been arrested in Fairfield, Connecticut, where he lives, for trafficking and sex crimes against women. That took place with his cohort assistant, Jennifer Powers. So Howard Rubin is 70. His assistant, Jennifer Powers, is 45. She was arrested in Texas over the weekend as well. And basically what's being alleged here, and he's gone through multiple lawsuits already, is that he was trafficking, that she was helping to find and traffic women to him that he would torture and pay them money to be tortured in his 57th Street penthouse that he paid $18,000 a month for on Central Park in New York City. And this comes replete with a sex dungeon. You might want to ask Cuomo if he ever visited it. For entertainment purposes, only just saying, because we know that Adams just dropped out of the mayoral race there in New York City. But we've got the situation here where he used to be this Howard Rubin. He was a huge portfolio manager for George Soros. And he was, this was the Soros Fund Management. And this is all coming down, I don't think, that the timing is any mistake. It's coming, of course, right now as we are hearing Stephen Miller and others out of the Trump administration saying we're going after Soros and the money. And so now we're getting Rubin, arrested, brought in, held without bail. And he also worked for Bear Stearns. Okay, so that's interesting as well. That's where, of course, Epstein had worked in New York City, supposedly. He's a brilliant financial mind, right? So this guy has the same proclivities, the same actions, and he's got all these counts against him, these charges against him. Howard Rubin, 70 years old, Bear Stearns, and Soros Fund Management Portfolio Manager. So we'll keep up to date on that, and I'll let you know what else I find out. Okay. And so let's see what else I want to do here. I think I'll jump into the Trump 20-point plan here and that discussion today. Pray for Trump. He looked beleaguered today. He looked tired and angry, very angry during this presser with Netanyahu today at the White House. And of course, maybe before I start that, I'll bring up, because it's going to tie in to everything to do with the well, just everything. Okay, but everything. But basically, I wanted to bring up that over the weekend, as Netanyahu has been here since his speech at the UN and et cetera, preparing for today, we have Netanyahu meeting with many of his paid influencers in the US. And we know they've been starting this huge campaign, of course, now with the buying of TikTok, right, by Larry Ellison, who is, I believe, a dual citizen with Israel, massive funder of the IDF, huge Zionist person. And remember his daughter, she was wrapped up in that that scandal of the crypto coin and the orgies and the Ponzi scheme and the billions, and that was his daughter, right? And then I might cover that more during the week just to refresh your memory, but and my own memory. But basically, she was super wrapped up in this massive Ponzi crypto scheme that seems to dig into everything to do with Tether, everything to do with multiple money laundering things. It all happened in the Bahamas, and his daughter seems to have skated. Okay, Larry Ellison's daughter. A very sketchy past on Larry Ellison, by the way, and I covered it in multiple videos. Gosh, last year, 18 months ago, 2 years ago. You know, it's been going on so long. But we get the situation of TikTok being bought by Larry Ellison, and it looks like the Rupert Murdoch empire, the Lachlan Murdoch now taking over, and his siblings suing him for more part of their father's empire there with Fox News, etc. And so we get TikTok being bought by them, okay, and so massive push to allow Israel to censor. And over the weekend, you had Netanyahu with his paid influencers coming out and saying, "Hey, we're in this eight-front war," and that eighth front is the USA American patriots, basically. And he called them the Woke Reich, okay, instead of the woke right. He called them the Woke Reich. Okay, called us, called the people who tell the truth, the Woke Reich. And I think it's interesting as we're seeing these shootings going on and who is being pegged for them. These veterans that have a problem with various things, that are connected in here somehow. And so the Woke Reich is what Netanyahu had to say, and that this is who we go after, who we need to go after. And TikTok, he specifically says, is so essential in this, that we be able to control TikTok, and therefore, and he also mentions X, okay, and control what people are saying and being able to go after them. And he oddly even mentions, we have other things going on, there's other things like drones and this is sort of situation. And you're just like, drones, And so, the president or the prime minister of the, or the president of the country that has the most insidious intelligence agency in the world, Mossad, and all the assassinations and all of the use of drone warfare, and all of the successful taking out of people that they've done, and we don't even get to Charlie Kirk yet for entertainment purposes only. That basically saying to his influencers, this is who we need to fight, is that Woke Reich, meaning America First patriots, or just people who know the truth. And so very intense there as we go into this now situation of the 20-point plan to end Israel's war on Gaza, and Trump taking control here with what is basically a redevelopment scheme for Gaza. And it's very interesting. So let's go through the 20-point plan here for a moment. Okay, first point is Gaza, and also there used to be 21 points before the weekend, and after the weekend it became 20. And the one point that was taken out was that Israel must agree to not attack Qatar, and that one was taken out. Very interestingly, even though we had Trump um, mention that Netanyahu had to apologize to the prime minister of Qatar um, during their 2-hour talk that they had today at the White House, where as Netanyahu arrived, none of the color guard was there, the flags weren't there. It was a very different sort of situation. And I think part of this plan that is being worked out here is if they can get all the charges, International Criminal Court and beyond, against Netanyahu dropped, that he might step down. I believe that's a behind the scenes thing that seems very much sort of implied here, because it does specifically mention that Israel will be have its international crimes dropped by the International Criminal Court. So we'll see how, it's all very interesting here, and it's very interesting to see how they can arrange all of this, right? But yeah, so and yeah, and Netanyahu having to apologize to the prime minister of Qatar, and Tony Blair. I mean, you just can't make it up. It's so disgusting. But we'll jump in here. Gaza will be a de-radicalized, terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. And I think I'm going to put in right here at the beginning a point that comes up later, because you kind of have to understand all the points through this point, because what they say here about their interim government that will come in after all these other points are met. is that Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza, and it goes on and on. Okay, this committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts, technocrats, with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, of which Donald J. Trump will be the chairman, and will be headed and chaired by President Trump with other members and heads of state, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. I mean, you can't get more disgusting than that. And again, you're getting kind of the same thing as before, right? A sort of, um, uh, I think that Tony Blair's on the dole with Qatar for in the tens and tens of millions a month on the payroll out of Qatar, and so you're just getting, they're all the same people behind the scenes, folks. Okay, and so the Board of Peace, yeah, headed by Trump and Blair. Um, and at such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program, as outlined in various proposals, including President Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and it can securely and effectively take back control of Gaza. This body will call on best international standards, create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment. And there'll be a specific economic zone that's also mentioned, which is a bit squirrely and disturbing. But what I want to emphasize here is that situation of technocratic, okay, technocratic government, a technocratic governing board. And I believe that this is implying, and I think a lot of the other points can be kind of gone through this filter, that this is going to be basically a massively um, digital space fence, situation where we're going to have a digital ID, just as they're rolling out in the UK right now, and that there's going to be some kind of currency situation that I think likely will be some kind of CBDC, and that Qatar and UAE are going to be financing all of this, and that it's going to be a technocratic rollout. Okay, they're going to rebuild Babylon back better. Okay, with a massive surveillance state, and we'll wait to see. But the fact, I've never seen in any plan before where that was on something that we might support or whatever, being called a technocratic governing body. That's new. Specifically saying technocratic, and I don't mean to belabor it, but I find it interesting. Okay, so um, we get one, Gaza will be de-radicalized. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people. Number three, both sides agree the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw, and that all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended. Battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for complete staged withdrawal. Within 72 hours of this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, must be returned, and Israel will, once upon return of the hostages, release about almost 2,000 Gazans, basically. It's very interesting. Okay, and so once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Okay, and that members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent to the Gaza Strip. And they say that, the build up all the infrastructure, rehabilitate all of the hospitals and means of food industry and production, and it goes on from there. Okay. And it goes on here and it talks about the distribution of aid, and it says it will be the United Nations and its agencies and the Red Crescent. The Red Crescent. in addition to other international institutions. I thought that was very interesting. Um, and the Rafah crossing in both directions will be subject to the same implementation. Um, yeah, that they will be opened. And so it goes on here to say Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by a convening panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about technocratic situations. Okay, so we're looking at another sort of Dubai. Think of the line. Okay, uh, you know. Um, uh, Mohammed bin Salman, right, in Saudi Arabia, the line, that technocratic city that they're making by taking over actual, real, ancient Semites' land there in Saudi Arabia. That basically they're going to build um, a super technocratic, extremely smart for the surveillance fence lockdown of this place, this Gaza. Trump says the Riviera of the Mediterranean, right? The Riviera of tyranny. And so we're looking at this rebuilding basically being to the standards of a Dubai type situation, to be a sort of haven for the rich and wealthy. And of course, the workers, these Gazans, their choice will be to be workers for these people in these massive technocratic um, buildings and infrastructure that they're going to build, and smart everything. And basically, it'll be the rollout of an example of what's to come elsewhere. And read Ukraine. Okay, read Ukraine there, because that is certainly they're looking for how they're going to also go ahead and do this in Ukraine as well. And so, the removal of Hamas, to have no governance of Gaza, no one forced to leave Gaza. They'll be able to stay and travel. And the specific economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries, meaning that Trump's going to put some tariffs already, like smack dab right there on UAE and Qatar, as they put up, tens of billions of dollars to go and reconstruct Gaza. And so that's kind of it. Um, and it's very interesting, and I think very disturbing, really, that 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 this is where we're at. Okay, and Netanyahu looking very sheepish, looking very conciliatory, and I believe that part of this whole deal here is that Israel will have within this the pressure to um, have there be. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. Have there be the dropping of the charges against specifically Netanyahu, and taking Israel out of charges from the International Criminal Court. And then we may see Netanyahu go on his way to finally retire, and we'll see what goes on from here, because we're looking at, of course, the rollout of the digital ID in the UK, and they're pushing it hard, and we're looking at uh, the Ukraine war possibly being ramped up very soon. We had Sergei Lavrov come out and say, hey, EU's like re-Nazifying. They're seriously going for some kind of massive world war here. They are pushing to seize $300 billion in Russian assets. And this is even with the Prime Minister of Belgium, where Real Clear, excuse me, where Euroclear, that holds, like, it's, kind of an arm basically of the Bank of International Settlements, holding those $300 billion right in Russian assets that were stolen and seized because of the war. And van der Leyen pushing so hard to seize that 300 billion, so that they can create a massively militarized Germany and other countries in Europe, France, UK. UK is not in there, but basically, that Lavrov is saying, if you seize those assets, you're just going to completely uh, create this world war. You're going to use it as a military machine, And Russia has just also drafted, conscripted in the draft, another 135,000 Russian men that that Putin says won't be going to fight in Ukraine. And they are ending the seasonal draft, the spring and fall, to now be year round in Russia in preparation for whatever could be coming. And you have, of course, in Belgium, the prime minister saying, we absolutely cannot seize those assets and liquidate them. Like, we can't liquidate the assets that we're holding at Euroclear, because that will mean that the euro will just go in the total crapper. And we've said the same thing about the assets held in the USA, that you can never trust the economies that might seize your assets, liquidate them, and use them to fight war against you, right? It seems pretty standard and easy to understand. And so this all while the UK, after this royal meeting, and Larry Fink and Larry Ellison and all the tech bros, all getting together with the king and the prince. They're in the UK at Windsor, and then over to Keir Starmer's Chequers, and they're all basically a week later, we get this massive digital ID rollout happening in UK. And it's pretty disgusting. And this all, again, as Netanyahu said, control of TikTok is paramount. And that pesky eighth front of the war here that Israel's fighting happens to be those American patriots, one of which just happened to be killed, going on 3 weeks here on Wednesday. And with complete bunk about, you know, the story of Charlie Kirk's murder. Just complete and total garbage, and infuriating and disgusting. What we're seeing coming out of TPUSA, just the acceptance, the forgive him, speech of Erica, all of it such crap. And so I'll get into an interesting tidbit that Candace Owen put out today, regarding, connected to Phil Lyman, who was a former candidate for governor against Governor Cox out of Utah, and strange stuff keeps developing. And of course, you had today Tyler Robinson's hearing, the appearance in court to see if they would get rid of, if they might just pass over the preliminary hearing for Robinson, who has not confessed and is not suicidal. Okay, and he basically has expressed that he's not giving up his preliminary hearing, and he has been granted a let me get her name. He's been granted a public defender because apparently he can't afford it. His family, that seems to make a good bunch, a fairly good living. They can't support him for having a good lawyer, so he's getting a taxpayers funded lawyer who's going to cost, I believe, somewhere in the crazy amount of like $60 million, like an insane amount of money. Catherine Nestor is her name, and it's going to be at least $1 million in taxpayer money, okay, to get this trial going. And she is basically coming in saying, no, we're not giving up our preliminary hearing. The preliminary hearing is that, we don't have the digital evidence yet. Interestingly, his defense attorney, Catherine Nestor, we don't have the digital evidence yet. It has not been delivered to us. And we need the preliminary hearing to be set 30 to 60 days out. And the judge, Tony Graff, says, well, how about, 30 days? We'll do October 30th at 11 a.m., to which she agrees. But the preliminary hearing is really like a mini trial, in the sense that it is determining probable cause. So anybody in defense knows that you want to be able to go to preliminary hearing so that you can even bring up, like, is there even probable cause in this case, right? And of course, to view the witnesses and to kind of figure out what's going on. And it also was brought up that they don't even have all the witnesses assembled yet. There's no way it can go fast. And so very interesting here as we watch all of this happen. Um, there's all this rumors of that Robinson was and some CIA related, to the Mormon Church, UVU, who's now there, where they're now going to have another TPA USA event soon. Super connected to the CIA, and I'm sure you all have heard all that. But I will just talk about what Candace Owens had to say here after a very bizarre thing that happened over the weekend. She's had a student on the ground at UVU. She calls him Nick as a pseudonym, who has been in contact with her, and he had worked on the campaign for Phil Lyman, who had ran against Cox. Okay, and we know that Charlie Kirk was outspoken against Cox and what he was doing to the state of Utah, the wokeism and all of it. And it turns out that she gets this kind of crazy call over the weekend from this Nick character, and he's worked on Phil Lyman's campaign, and Phil Lyman, like the day after, morning after Charlie's the event, you have him, Phil Lyman, former candidate, coming on Steve Bannon's show, The War Room, and saying how he was in the audience. It was so weird. He heard right where the gun came, the gunshot came from. He saw these goth girls who didn't seem to react at all. It was just kind of, it looked like he was saying, hey, something doesn't add up here. There's all this strange stuff going on. Don't think he could have been, shot with a 3-06 and this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, he's kind of questioning the narrative of what's going on. But then he seems like Phil Lyman kind of had a freak out over the weekend and somehow tracked down and knew that this kid, Nick, was the contact for Candace Owens on the ground at UVU to do with finding out sources for pictures, who's in different pictures, sort of information on the ground. And it looks like the Lyman family's really connected up in the Utah LDS Church. Just a lot of stuff going on there. And then we just happened to get this LDS Church shot up and burnt down in Michigan, attempting to burn it down with people, everybody inside this weekend. Well, we get the situation of uh, their family owning a lot of property in the area near UVU. The sightings of what they're claiming is Robinson in pictures near his properties. And he shows up at Nick's house over the weekend and he says, hey, what's going on? Like, why are you talking to Candace Owens? And all this very strange stuff really, really rattled. And 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 he basically is like, whose side are you on? What's going on? And he goes out to his car to make a private call in his car, comes back in, and I believe he even talked to Candace Owens on the phone while all this went down. So it is a very strange, bizarre phenomenon. You have his nephew, Phil Lyman's nephew, Shane, being one of the people who've been putting up these pictures about the Converse footprint that is, the famous footprint of Converse sneakers outside of one of the Lyman properties. Very, very bizarre stuff going on here. So we're going to keep following it, but it all stinks, right? And and we don't even know if Charlie's, from the reporting and the investigations, we don't know that he's dead, unfortunately, because there's zero solid evidence to show that Robinson is the shooter or to really everything, all of it. So I'm not going to keep belaboring that, but we're sitting in this place where this eighth front, okay, of this concern, um, where you have uh, basically the patriots in the U.S. are just basically people with common sense on the right talking about the truth, are being targeted by Israel. You get this situation now of the strange shooting in Southport, North Carolina, where the man was coming down Cape Fear River on a boat and shot up outside this restaurant called American Fish right on the wharf and basically kills 3 people. Might be 4 that are dead now, definitely 3. 8 others injured. and just start shooting up this restaurant right on the wharf. They play music, outdoor music. It's a lovely place to watch the sunset. Seems like a really beautiful, great place to be on the coast there in North Carolina. And the strange thing about this guy is and I think we'll know more when we identify who actually was shot, okay, who was killed and who was there, because they're saying it was all out of towners, okay, who were shot. And finding out who was shot, and that would be, I think, a big thing in this case, because what we're hearing about this guy is he very much sounds like, at least being set up to look that way, like a MK Ultra style guy, right? Ex-Marine, Purple Heart, Afghanistan, multiple deployments, and he was a local, kind of known locally for uh, filing multiple lawsuits in the area, and known for this thing that he was on about, which was claiming that he basically was a that he was. It's hard to determine exactly, but something about he was talking about the LGBTQ cabal, that he was used by the military, that the reason his name now is Nigel Max Edge is that his former name, let me see if I can find this here. His former name was Sean William de Beauvoir, I believe, Sean William de Beauvoir, and he was ex-military, Marine with Purple Heart, shot multiple times during his time in the military, and he claimed that he was given a false identity and a fake family in his youth. Okay, he claimed that he was trafficked, sex trafficked. He claimed that they've been trying to kill him, and that they killed his dog, and specifically mentions uh, being betrayed by the government, stuff connected with Guantanamo Bay, and something about an LGBTQ cabal. Okay, so this guy is very, very, uh, looks like a MK Ultra person to me, and we won't know until we find out more. And I think especially who was actually murdered um, and injured, who were all out of towners vacationing in Southport, North Carolina. But I think it's very interesting to kind of understand we're in this space here where the reason I keep pointing out the eighth front of the woke Reich, okay, that Netanyahu is calling us, is that they're making it look like crazy veterans are on a murderous rampage against LGBTQ cabal of the Zionist whatever, right? This kind of thing. And then we see the guy um, in Grand Blanc, Michigan, in his situation, Thomas Jacob Sanford, again, now dead, Marine, Iraq, vet. We've got, I think it's down, I think 4 people have died now, trying to burn down the LDS church, the Mormon church there in Grand Blanc, and opening fire, killing people, and during Sunday service, and you just can't dismiss the connection of being an LDS Mormon church, okay, from what happened almost 3 weeks ago with Charlie Kirk. Okay, you just can't, and you have to wonder: are these people cleaning up loose ends? What is going on here? And so I just say it like I see it when you're looking for connections, or just like conspiracy facts. Looking for the facts. And so, conveniently, this Thomas Jacob Sanford, who supposedly did this and is now dead, drove his truck into the church with his American flags on the back. And he just happened to have said to a local town council member 1 week ago that LDS is the Antichrist. And, and, and basically, that's what's being said. And so, when we look at people who have been talking about, different experts about this amount of fire that ignited so rapidly in the church, that it had to be a huge operation. It couldn't have been spur of the moment, just driving his truck into the church, because the amount of accelerant that would have already had to have been present to get to the church to be able to erupt that fast and that vast within it. And we pray for everybody affected by both of these awful, awful, disgusting events. I mean, they're just awful. And the terrorization is the biggest part of it, of course, is the terrorization of the population and this framing of the narrative that there's a woke Reich, right? As we know, it's the opposite, as Stephen Miller has put out so much. So we're going to get back as we find out more about Grand Blanc, and I'm sure we will be. But we have to, we have to just kind of get it that, we just had that sim server AI farm, right? That's capable of setting up everything to do with all of the swatting that's been going on, all of the planting things on phones, all of it, right? Just coming out at the same time as well. And I want to talk about what Stephen Miller had to say over the weekend as well, which was very clearly said, and I think um, interesting to mention, is that we get Stephen Miller basically saying that there's definitely a fifth column in the USA of radical left terrorists that are being funded, and that he is putting on notice that they are certainly going after them, going after their money and that they will be charged if found guilty of sedition, treason, and terrorism. A well-funded financial network working to undermine the USA, says Stephen Miller. And he basically says that the MSPM, Trump's memorandum from Friday, to go after these people, is going to release a massive, all of the networks, the terrorist task force, etc., but also the U.S. Treasury and the IRS as well. And under Trump, every resource of the federal government, this is Stephen Miller's quote, will be found to break up this network and prosecute those committing treason. NGOs filtering money to street terrorism is how this is working, and conspiracy charges will be made. And so they said they found their example of this mapping out of this from everything they've been able to discover about the BLM payment and network system from 4 years ago. So that's all going down. So I think that's all very, very cool, very good, very important. But we're in the background. We still have James Comey arrested. We've got a charge. We've got supposedly John Bolton might be the next one to get the charges and the indictments going against him. National security secrets being sold on the open market by John Bolton for entertainment purposes only could be coming out very, very soon. And Devin Nunes has been very vocal about this, and of course he was right there when it all happened and went down with Crossfire Hurricane, etc. That he said the grand conspiracy charges are coming. Okay, the versus Comey, and he says he believes there's going to be about 25 more people, or 24 more, that will be connected to this grand conspiracy with Crossfire Hurricane, Russiagate, etc. And it's important to remember that in the indictments on Comey, you get Hillary Clinton is called person number one in those charges. She is person number one, having to do with her 60,000 emails that had to be covered up and everything. Okay, the roads here leading to the Clintons are getting stronger and stronger as far as the federal charges go. So we will see, right? Because we got Bondi and Blanche, right? Bondi and Blanche. It's like a bad, sitcom TV show. Bondi and Blanche with our DOJ, because we're hearing today there was a Gold Star Moms reception at the White House. And of course, who wasn't there is Tina Peters, because she's rotting in a Colorado jail in general population and going through hell. And she's in her early 70s or just turned 70 in jail, in prison. And Trump administration has been trying to intervene and basically saying she is a key witness in what we're doing, what we're prosecuting, which gives you an insight into the election fraud, steal, and everything coming up that we're finding out is getting massively organized for that to be the next set of prosecutions coming. But basically, Tina Peters, as a valuable witness in this 2020 steal, has been proposed by the Trump administration that she be considered a protected witness, and therefore be released from prison. And it's Todd Blanche, according to many, that are holding up this process. Okay, and so and I've been saying it on this channel that he is one of the blocks here. He's the Lisa Monaco. Okay, to Merrick Garland, as Lisa Monaco was, we get Blanche to Bondi. And so we want to really, really pray for Tina Peters, and we want this to go forward. So 202-225-3121. Let's hit up the Judicial Committee, and and say, hey, what the hell's going on with Tina Peters and Todd Blanche obstructing the move to get her released from prison under witness protection. So I wanted to leave you with that, and I will be leaving you with that here at 51 minutes. There's so much more to say. I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll cover more of it and get deeper into it. And one little tidbit I'll mention here at the end is they said they're going to release all the national security files on Amelia Earhart and her last flight. And I, for one, would really like to hear about this, because I always believed that she was murdered even when I was a kid. I was always like, that doesn't sound right to me, what happened to Amelia Earhart. And so that'll be very exciting to get those details. Bless her soul. What a courageous woman. And so, okay, we're going to end it there. And I want to thank you for watching. If you found something that was added value in this video tonight, you want to help out the channel, there's ways to do so below. I appreciate it very much. And also, of course, the sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV, code YAFTV for 10% off, and 15% off if you've ever donated to the channel or do, and especially before the end of the month here, tonight or tomorrow, up through midnight tomorrow night. Anyone who donates to the channel, you not only get 15% off, but you get put into a random giveaway of 2 bottles of C60 Evo capsules, which I love, carry in my pocket. And of course, C60 Evo is the incredible ESS60 super uber pure carbon 60 molecule that gives you incredible energy and focus, cleans out your neurons, cleans out your trillions of mitochondria, and basically is able to fight inflammation, therefore, all chronic diseases by keeping your cells clean and staying in your body over and over for many days, recreating and doing the same thing with your glutathione and melatonin to clean out your cells. And of course, it is cellular health is the key to longevity. It's the key to preventing all of the cytokine storm stuff that we go through to do with all the toxins and poisons and the jabs, etc. And it's just an incredible product. So check it out, c60evo.com/YAFTV, code YAFTV for 10% off. Thanks so much for watching, you all. I will see you tomorrow. You are free. Prayers, prayers.